There is a castle in Czechia that people say was built over a hole to hell. There is a black ambulance children were warned about in late communist Czechoslovakia. There is a real house in Prague where people say the devil came to collect what he was owed. There is a clay monster that may still be hidden in the attic of one of Europe's oldest synagogues. And there is a white lady ghost whose story may have started with a real woman writing letters about how badly she was treated. So yes, today we are going into Czechia's nightmare folder. And I have to say, this one feels personal because this is my country. Czech legends have this very specific feeling. They are not just floating monster stories. They are attached to real places, real castles, real Prague streets, real buildings, historical people. You can actually go to some of these places, stand there and think, okay, this is beautiful, but also, why does it feel like something is watching me? These are legends. Some are old folklore, some are urban rumors, some are tied to real history, and some details are impossible to prove. So I'm not going to act like every version happened exactly the way people tell it, but these stories stayed around for a reason. People repeated them, they connected them to real places, they turned them into tours, books, and ghost stories. And once a story gets attached to a real place, that place never feels fully normal again. And we have to start with the castle that sounds like it came from a horror movie. Houska Castle. Houska Castle is a real Gothic castle about 47 kilometers north of Prague. It is in the Liberec region and the castle is usually connected with the 13th century and King Přemysl Otakar II. It was built on the site of an older hill fort, so the place had history even before the castle existed. But nobody talks about Houska because it is just another pretty Czech castle. People talk about Houska because of the hole. According to the legend, there was a deep chasm there. A hole so dark people said it led to hell. And the castle was supposedly built not to protect people inside from enemies outside, but to keep whatever was down there from getting out. That is such a good horror idea that it almost feels unfair. A castle is usually built for defense. You imagine walls, soldiers, a road, a water source, some clear reason for why it is there. But Houska has this strange reputation because people say it doesn't feel like a normal defensive castle. The legend says the chapel was built right over the chasm, like someone wanted to seal it shut with holy ground. A chapel on top of a hole to hell. The most famous story is about the prisoner. In one version, condemned prisoners were offered pardon if they agreed to be lowered into the hole and report what they saw. One man agreed. They tied him to a rope, lowered him down, and almost immediately he started screaming. When they pulled him back up, according to the legend, he looked like he had aged decades. His hair had turned white, his face was changed. He was alive, but whatever he saw down there had ruined him. Do we know that really happened? No, it is a legend, but as a story it is perfect. You do not need to see what is in the hole. The man's face tells you enough. That is almost worse than showing the monster. Houska has more weird stories around it too. People talk about dark winged creatures, strange animal human beings, and a black hooded figure without a face. Some versions mention tunnels, underground spaces, and things that should not be under a castle. The place also has a real World War II layer. During the war, the castle was used by the German army, and from 1943 it was used as a depository for Jewish and Masonic books. Later, people also added Nazi occult rumors to Houska, but even without that, the real wartime history is already unsettling enough because the German army really did use the castle during World War II. What's weird is, Houska only opened to the public in 1999. So for centuries, most normal people were not just casually walking through it with a ticket and a camera. That makes it feel even more closed off, like it had a long private life before tourists could enter. I've actually been to Houska, and honestly, it really does have a strange atmosphere. Even in daylight, it feels heavy and quiet in a way that is hard to explain. I'm not saying I felt hell under the floor, but it definitely does not feel like just another pretty Czech castle. Would I visit again? Yes, during the day with people very happily. Would I stand alone at a chapel thinking about the hall that is supposed to be under it? Absolutely not. Now we go from a medieval castle to something much more modern, a black ambulance. This one is not a castle legend, it is a real urban rumor, the kind of story that spreads between children, parents, schools, neighborhoods. In Czechoslovakia, especially in the late 1970s, people told stories about a black ambulance that could take people away. And that already feels wrong. Because an ambulance is supposed to help you. You hear a siren, you think someone is being saved. But in this legend, the rescue vehicle becomes the thing people fear. The black ambulance is connected to a wider Eastern and Central European legend known in other places as the Black Volga. In different countries, the scary car changes. The driver changed depending on who told the story. In one place, it was a secret police, in another mafia, somewhere else Satanist, or even the devil. But the basic fear was already the same. A dark, official-looking car shows up and someone is gone. In the Czech and Czechoslovak version, people talked about a black ambulance, which is honestly worse because an ambulance should mean someone is coming to help. In this story, that is exactly what makes it scary. In some versions of the wider legend, the victims are children or young people. Some tellings talk about blood, organs, rich foreigners, or strange medical reasons. A lot of it sounds like rumor piled on top of a rumor, but you can see what people were afraid of. Hospitals, state power, secret police, people disappearing, adults not telling children the truth. Late communist Czechoslovakia was not exactly a place where everyone trusted institutions. So when a legend says, "Be careful, the official vehicle might not save you," that fear has somewhere to land. I'm not saying there was a real black ambulance kidnapping children, this is a legend, but the fact that people told it says a lot. A monster with claws is one kind of fear. A vehicle that looks like hell but might take you away, that is another kind. And this is why I like having the black ambulance right after Houska. Houska is ancient horror. The black ambulance is city horror. It does not need a castle or a demon. It needs a street, a car, and a parent saying, "Don't go near it." And honestly, if you grew up hearing something like that, you remember it. Even years later, you see the wrong kind of car in the wrong kind of light, and for 1 second, your childhood brain wakes up. Now, from the late socialist street fear, we go back into Prague, to a house with one of the creepiest reputations in the city, Faust House. In Czech, Faustův dům. It is a real building on Charles Square, Karlovo náměstí in Prague. The official name is Mladota Palace, and today it belongs to the first faculty of medicine of Charles University. Which is funny, honestly, because imagine going to study medicine in a building people associate with the devil. Very motivating. You arrive with notebooks and coffee and the building is like, wonderful, we have a history. The strange part is that the real Faust probably never lived there. Johann Georg Faust was a real wandering magician and alchemist figure, but he most likely never visited this Prague house. And yet the legend attached itself to the building anyway. And honestly, Prague kind of did that a lot. If a place had alchemists, strange experiments, mysterious people, and enough weird stories, the city basically said, yes, this belongs to Faust now. The house had real residents who helped the reputation. One was Jakub Krucínek, an astrologer. One story says he had 2 sons, and the younger killed the older because he believed treasure was hidden in the house. That alone would be enough to make a place feel cursed. Then there was Jan Kopp, a doctor of Ferdinand I and an amateur alchemist. And then Edward Kelly, the famous English alchemist connected with Emperor Rudolf II. Kelly worked with John Dee and had a reputation for occult and alchemical work. If you want dark Prague energy, Edward Kelly is basically standing there waving from the shadows. There were also stories of experiments, explosions, and holes in the ceiling. Later, Ferdinand Antoni Mladota did chemical and physical experiments in the house and basement. Some stories say he used optics, electricity, magnetism, and strange machines. To us, that sounds like early science. To people at the time, it could look like someone had made a deal with something. And then there was Karel Janik, a later owner who apparently leaned very hard into death. He decorates walls with funeral texts, slept in a coffin, and kept part of a gallows. I'm sorry, but at that point the house is not even trying to look normal anymore. But the best legend is the poor student story. According to the story, a poor student had nowhere to stay, so he ended up living in Faust House. Every morning he found a silver coin. Just one coin, enough to help him. At first it sounded like a blessing. Free money, mysterious house, what could go wrong? Everything, obviously. The student starts to depend on the coins. In some versions, he becomes greedy or starts trying to command the power giving them to him. Then one day he disappears. Later people find torn clothes, broken furniture, magic books open, and bloodstains. The silver coin is what makes this story so creepy to me. It's just a small thing. One coin every morning. At first you could tell yourself it's fine, someone is helping him, he got lucky. Better not to ask too many questions. And then one day it's too late. That is what Faust House does so well. It mixes real Prague history with the feeling that curiosity can become dangerous. Alchemy, medicine, experiments, death, treasure, a poor student, a devil bargain. The real facts are strange enough, and then the legend walks in and says, I can make it worse. Now, we go to the Czech legend most people outside Czechia are most likely to know, the Golem of Prague. The Golem is connected with Prague's Jewish quarter, Josefov, and the Old New Synagogue. The Old New Synagogue was completed around 1270, and it is known as the oldest active synagogue in Europe. So right away this legend is attached to a real place with serious historical weight. The story says Rabbi Yuda Lev, known as the Maharal, created a golem from clay to protect Prague's Jewish community. In many versions, the clay comes from the banks of the Vltava river. The golem is brought to life through Hebrew word, ritual, or a shem, a sacred name or inscription that gives him life. And I love this legend because the golem is not just monster scary. He is created for protection. He is made because people are in danger. That makes him more interesting than a random creature in a dungeon. In some versions, he is named Josef or Josele. He is huge, powerful, quiet, and loyal. He protects the ghetto. He carries out tasks. He does what he is told. But of course, a creature made to obey can become terrifying if anything goes wrong. One of the strongest details is the Sabbath rule. In some versions, Rabbi Lev has to deactivate the golem before the Sabbath by removing the shem. One Friday, depending on the version, he forgets or something goes wrong. The golem becomes dangerous. He starts destroying things or cannot be controlled. Rabbi Lev has to stop him by removing the shem, and after that the golem's body is hidden away. According to the legend, the golem's body still lies in the attic of the new Old Synagogue. The attic is not open to the public. There are practical and religious reasons for that, of course, but come on. And of course, when you hear that the golem is supposedly hidden in the attic, and when you find out people can't just go up there, your brain immediately goes, wait, excuse me? The story gets even better because people have looked. During a renovation in 1883, no golem was found. There was also an attic exploration in 2014, and again, no golem. And yet the legend did not die. That is my favorite part. No one found him, and people still keep the story alive. Because with the golem, the proof almost becomes less important than the idea. A protector made from the earth, a secret body in an attic, a monster created by fear, fate, and the need to survive. There is also a historical twist. Some scholars think the version of the golem legend connected to the Maharal may have developed later in literature, not directly in the 16th century. That does not ruin it for me, it actually makes it fascinating. Prague is the kind of city where stories can become so strong that they feel older than the documents prove. And honestly, I get why people still talk about the golem. When you are in Prague, especially around the Jewish quarter, the story just feels like it belongs there. Old buildings, narrow streets, the synagogue attic. Even if you don't believe there's a clay body hidden up there, it's very easy to understand why people keep imagining it. And now I want to end with a ghost story that is quieter, but honestly maybe more human than all the others. The White Lady of Rožmberk. In Czech, Bílá paní. The White Lady is one of the most famous ghost figures in Czech folklore, and the strongest Czech version is connected with a real woman, Perchta of Rožmberk. Perchta lived in the 15th century around 1429 to 1476. She was the daughter of Old II of Rožmberk, one of the most powerful noblemen in Bohemia. In 1449 she married Jan of Liechtenstein, and from what we know, it was not a happy marriage. This is where the legend becomes more than just a lady in white appears in a castle. Perchta left letters. Around 32 letters survived, and they describe her unhappy family life and the bad treatment she faced. And that's why her story feels different. Perchta was real. Her letters survived, and when you hear what she went through, she stops feeling like just another ghost in a white dress. According to the legend, where her husband was dying, he asked Perchta to forgive him. She refused. Then he cursed her. After her death, she began appearing as the White Lady of Rožmberk family estates. A woman suffers in life. She refuses to forgive the man who hurt her. Then the story turns her into a ghost who keeps returning. Her ghost is connected not only with Rožmberk Castle, but also with places like Český Krumlov, Jindřichův Hradec, Třeboň, Telč, and other noble residences. It is like her story spread across the map with the family's power. Rožmberk Castle itself is real and old. It is in South Bohemia, near Rožmberk nad Vltavou, and it was first mentioned in 1253. The Rožmberks were one of the most important noble families in Bohemia, and their symbol, the rose, still feels connected to the whole region. There is also a strange portrait detail. At Rožmberk Castle, descriptions mention a portrait of Perchta with a mysterious inscription, some connected with Enochian script, which pulls us right back into the world of occult Renaissance Prague, John Dee, Edward Kelly, secret writings, strange symbols. The White Lady is often treated as an omen too. In some versions, when she appears in white gloves, it can mean good news. In black gloves, it can mean death or disaster. So when the White Lady appears, people don't just see a ghost, they see a warning. Perchta feels different to me because she was real. She had a name, a life, a marriage that clearly hurt her, and letters that survived. So when people talk about her as the White Lady, it doesn't feel like just another ghost story. It feels sadder than that. And this is what I love about Czech legends. You can be standing in a beautiful place, a castle, a church, an old street in Prague, and then someone casually tells you the most unhinged story you've ever heard. Like, oh, by the way, this chapel may have been built over a hole to hell. Excuse me, you were going to mention that when? For me, Houska Castle is still the scariest one. I've actually been there and it really does have this strange atmosphere. Even in daylight, it feels heavy and quiet in a way that makes you lower your voice without knowing why. I'm not saying I felt anything supernatural, but I'm saying it doesn't feel like just another nice castle trip. And if I'm standing in a chapel that people say was built to seal something underneath it, I'm sorry, but I'm thinking about it the whole time. So, now I need to know which one got under your skin. Tell me in the comments which one you think is the scariest. And tell me which country I should cover next in this urban legend series. If you want more creepy folklore, ghost stories and urban legends from around the world, like the video, subscribe and stay on the weird side of YouTube with me. And if you ever visit Czechia and someone tells you a castle chapel was built to seal a hole underneath it, maybe don't ask what is under the floor.